You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
To you by the Alabama Department of Labor, ABA, and the station. The Alabama Department of Labor is an equal opportunity employer program. Auxiliary aids and services available upon request to individuals with disabilities. Dial 711 for TTY accessibility.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, here we go. Welcome in, everybody, to the Gary Harris Show for this Tuesday, October 8, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld alongside, manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. It's now 3 days removed from the debacle in Nashville, and a lot of stuff coming out yesterday with the Alabama press conferences with the coaches, the two coordinators, and head coach Kalen DeBoer, discussing the game, trying to explain what happened. Malachi Moore's situation, not being suspended. And, of course, we'll play – I know it's been played a lot, but I still want to play Coach DeBoer's comments on Malachi Moore a little bit later on, in that he not only backed his guy but went on about a 2.5-minute explanation as to what Malachi Moore means to the team and what he means to him, and what he means in regards to, this situation, not wanting to diminish what he has accomplished over his career. And I get that. I still think that, he had a meltdown, Malachi did. And the worst thing for me is refusing to come off the field. When the coaches send in a player for you to sub you out and you just say no, I'm not coming out. This is just my opinion. To me, that's disrespectful to your coaches. It's bad enough that you kicked the football and that you threw your mouthpiece, but when you refuse to come out of the game and you send the guy off that comes in for you, then you're sitting there yelling at the sideline that you're not coming out. That's just disrespectful to your coaches. And to me, it says I don't respect your authority as the coach to tell me I have to come out of the game. So Malachi's been here 5 years. I've been around him some interview sessions. I do agree that he's been outstanding. He's been great, respectful. This is a outlier. This is not, something that he's done on a regular basis. But I have to say, from my standpoint, to me, when you wave a guy off and tell the coaches and yell at the coaches that you're not coming out, I just don't think that's the way it's supposed to work. You're not supposed to make those calls. I know we say these guys are now professionals, they're getting paid, but no, this is still college football, and coaches make the decisions on who plays and who goes into the game. And when a player circumvents that and says, I'm not coming out, I'm not a fan of that. Just not a fan of that. So, but I do recognize, and we've been talking about this, that it's a different game and a different era, but still there has to be a hierarchy. There has to be head coach, coordinators, assistant coaches, players. It has to go from that caste system, if you will, with the head coach on top, and then it falls through, and the players answer to the assistant coaches, the coordinators, and the head coach. And to me, when that doesn't happen, that's a problem. But maybe I'm in the minority. Maybe I'm the only one that feels that way. Now, as far as some of the trash talk stuff, first of all, Diego Pavia doesn't need to be pointing a finger at anybody. I mean, this kid is a terrific player, but he is he is dropping F-bombs on the SEC network. He dropped F-bombs in the press conference after the game. And, he's got a chip on his shoulder, tough kid, but, he doesn't need to be worried about pointing out anything. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff that's coming out about Vanderbilt not shaking Alabama's hands at the coin toss. And Diego Pavia went on the Dan Patrick Show on Monday and talked about why they didn't shake Alabama's hands. At the beginning of the game, I go out there as a captain, go out there to the coin toss. They were talking crazy. They thought they were going to come in here and treat us like we're an FCS team. And we're like, what? You must not know. Like, all right, we're going to see. They're laughing, talking like I can't say it on the show because I can't curse. But, yeah, they were talking crazy. So when they said we're taking the ball, they're kicking off, we didn't even shake their hands, after which we just went off to the sideline. So there did appear to be a bunch of talking in that game, but it was on both sides. You don't really think of Vanderbilt as a team to be doing a lot of, trash talking, but they were. And they were talking to Alabama. You could see it on the television, and Alabama was talking back. Clearly, based on the way this game went, I would argue that rat traps or not in the building, Alabama didn't respect this team. That's my take on it, that Alabama didn't respect this team. And that's always a problem when you don't respect your opponent. But I think Vanderbilt doesn't need to be, trying to play the victim card here as far as trash talk is concerned. But, hey, they won the game. They outplayed Alabama. To the victor goes the spoils. All right, we got a good show coming up for you this morning. We've got the Rocket Man, Drew DeArmond, talking some ball at 9:30. Kayla Anderson with the Titans report at 10 o'clock out of Nashville. And the Ramon, Kayla, and Will show. Also, your phone calls, which we're going to start getting to in just a moment. But I do need to tell you, this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you, as always, by my good friends at Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit. It really is just a better way of banking. I encourage you to find out more about why Alabama Credit Union could be right for you. Membership has its privileges at Alabama Credit Union. They're taking their profits and returning them to you, the member, in the form of lower interest rates and higher dividends. That's something we can all get excited about. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership. Then join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, let's go ahead and take a phone call before we hit the break, because Jim has been waiting to get through. Hey, Jim, good morning. You're leading us off.
All right, hey, Jimmy Johnson one time cut a player in film class because he dozed off. Mm-hmm. And he was asked if he would treat all his players that way. He said, no, if it was him, he went over there and nudged him to wake him up.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm high on discipline. But I didn't realize all the good things that Moore has done.
He's been a class player on and off the field. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I'm talking about off the field. And then I hear DeBoer saying he's one of the ones that kept it together. Mm-hmm. So maybe he's the one just needs a nudge. I mean, maybe he's done.
Well, like I said, Jim, I appreciate the passion. Now, I wish he'd had more intensity to make more plays during the game, particularly when he got beat on the 38-yard touchdown over the top on fourth down, and also on the play on 2nd and 12 where he had the guy and couldn't get out there in coverage. I would appreciate him showing more intensity there, but I appreciate the passion. The biggest thing I had a problem with is when the coach sends someone in to sub for you and you refuse to come off the field. I had more of a problem with that really than I did kicking the ball or throwing the mouthpiece or being up. That to me is disrespectful to the coaching staff. You don't make that call as to whether or not you stay in the game. And you mentioned the Cowboys, and I get it, but that's pro football. Pro football, certainly. I mean, you have the ability to cut players, and, there's a hierarchy system. College football, still, the thought process is that the coaches run the team, not the players. And so that bothered me more than anything else, is him refusing to come off the field.
Yeah, well, do you remember Peyton Manning against Pittsburgh when it was down quite a bit in the playoffs? He was it was fourth down, and Dungy was going to send in the punt unit and come off the field. He stayed on and ended up picking up.
Listen,
now, I'm just saying,
pro football, though. That's pro football. Peyton Manning makes more than the coach.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying that from what yesterday, I was wanting him to be suspended. I didn't realize the things he had done. So I'm saying, okay, if anybody, do you have to treat everybody the same? if somebody stood out and really done good for the community and everything else.
Well, obviously the coach didn't think it was worth suspending him. So, listen, the coach is in charge. Coach DeBoer's in charge. He's made the decision. We all move on. And he pointed out all the positive things that he did. And you're right. It's just one moment in time. And, listen, I don't have a problem with him not being suspended. I just would rather coach have said, we handle discipline internally. Whatever we do will be between us and the player. And instead of just going on and on and on and almost like trying to justify why they didn't suspend him. You're in charge. It's your call, and I respect that. But I thought, but he has done a lot of good things, and clearly he's a key member of this team. So hey, listen, man, we move on. That's what we do, right?
Yeah, I got one quick thing. You've heard me talk about this before. Okay. How long do you think your new marriage would last if you allowed your ex to live upstairs in the garage bedroom?
Well,
and
probably not long.
Yeah, and Saban's still there at school, but now he's also working kind of conflict working for ESPN, where they might want him to say things, like of interest, And DeBoer can't be happy that he made that statement about Vanderbilt being the only SEC, stadium. You ain't got home
field advantage, right?
Yeah. That's right boys in there, So I'm just look. I love Saban, but I'm trying to kind of like defend DeBoer by saying, hey, you just look at the situation he's in. He's living in the shadow of Saban. And then, Saban's saying...
Yeah, but let me counter it like this, Jim. I don't think Saban's over there in the day-to-day operations of the football program. I mean, what is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to move out of Tuscaloosa and move to Florida because he's no longer the coach?
Well, he can move out off the campus. He works for ESPN now, and he's got, 2 or 3 homes? I mean, I'm just saying, what's the deal? He's got a statue up, and everything. So I'm just saying... I'm just saying I could see DeBoer can't be happy about that statement he made. So that could be the first thing that, that gets under his skin really bad. And then it's what's next. I just think, it's not a good situation,
Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on your perspective. Hey, man, thank you a lot. Always good to hear from you, Jim. All right, we're going to get to the break, and then we come back. Phone calls are lined up. We've got Pat, Cowboy, and Bryce that we'll get to in the next segment. Drew DeArmond coming up at 9:30. This is the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 12:30 a.m. WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Tuesday morning, the Northport City Council passed a resolution last night proclaiming this as Fire Prevention Week. Fire Chief Mark Marshall emphasized the importance of smoke alarms, saying it increases survivability of a fire by 60%. And Battalion Chief Richard Brown was named the 2024 Northport Fire Rescue Firefighter of the Year. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meet and...
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
And the men and women who serve every day. Learn more and apply today at jointuscaloosapd.com. That's jointuscaloosapd.com.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages,
and auto loans. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Visit alabamacu.com to learn more. Some rules and restrictions apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Alabama's weather will stay dry through the weekend ahead. A sunny sky today, the high 81. Clear tonight, the low 57. Tomorrow and Thursday, sunny both days, highs around 80. And Friday, another sunny day with a high at 79. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 62 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to The Gary Harris Show.
Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama.
On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9. And streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:18. Welcome back in. Some breaking news from the NFL, and it's big news. We'll get to it quickly and then get to our phone calls. But we were talking about, Jim was talking about Peyton Manning, telling Dungy he was going to go for it on fourth down. That's pro football. The quarterback has more clout usually than the head coach. This is another example. If you follow the Jets, you know that Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh weren't on the same page. Well, Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere. Robert Saleh out as head coach of the Jets, fired. I'm stunned by this move, 2-3 on the season, but still a lot of football left. But the Jets, breaking news from ESPN, the Jets have fired head coach Robert Saleh, and just 5 games into the season. All right, phone calls, as I said, we got in the order in which they came, Pat, Cowboy, Bryce, and Philip. So we'll lead off with Pat. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, Gary. Hey, am I right? I know that word "assume" is a bad word, and we know how it divides out. But from what I'm reading, that NIL is going to change as we know it, and starting as early as 2025, the colleges will have the ability, because of this $2.something billion to pay players as early as 2025. That is correct. From what you've read too? Yeah,
from what I'm reading, they're working toward direct payments from the universities. I haven't, yesterday I was so busy with press conferences and tracking Alabama that I didn't get to get into all of it. But yeah, that's my understanding, is that it's going to be heading toward direct payments and trying to put, I don't know if it's like a salary cap or where exactly, but they're trying to get something implemented to make some changes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. But here's the deal. What's to prevent, because Danny, we'll say what Danny's last name is, and he said there was a bag man, swore there was a bag man. What's to prevent that bag man? He still lives in a camper just off of Wire Road.
You mean even after the NL changes the ability to keep extra?
Exactly.
Well, that may always be a factor. I mean, even if they're getting direct payments, but I will say this: if you're paying directly, there's probably less chance of that happening. But yeah, there's still not anything to keep someone from saying, "Hey, I'm going to help out my players on top of their payments," and just say, "Hey, star quarterback, come here, man. I got, here's a little extra spending cash for you." So I guess that's always a potential, but this might be as important for just getting some rules and restrictions in place for the current system as it, worry about bagmen later. There's got to be something done to try to kind of give us some direction in where we're going with this.
Yeah. What the article I was reading said that NIL, though, is not going away, that they'd still have the ability, or somebody will have the ability, and there may be groups that still have the ability to go out and find money for these guys besides what the university is paying them, because it's still going to be an arms race no matter what.
Oh, yeah. I guess
there's too much money in college football for it not to be an arms race. What do you think?
I think maybe what this would do is, like I said, take it out of the gray area and just go ahead and have a direct payment plan. And yeah, NIL would still be available, but maybe it would really be NIL. In other words, if you're getting paid, then if you get NIL money, maybe you really have to do something for the money. Maybe you really have to represent a company or do commercials or something like that instead of just, oh, this is NIL money and we're just going to give you a certain, when a school brings in a quarterback and pays him $1 million, that has nothing to do with NIL. And that's what Saban's been saying. So maybe they're going to try to get it back on track that NIL, name, image, and likeness, really is name, image, and likeness.
Well, they've got to. They're going to have contracts so both ways. Lawyers are going to have to be involved in it because just like this Otis, and it hurts my feelings that Otis is leaving. Otis would have been, I think, a big help in the middle of the defensive line in that game last week. I could be wrong. But he has been in the past. He has been a disruptor. He's got more blocked passes, I think, than anybody else. And over the last few years, I don't know what the issue is. It may be work ethic. I don't know. Not going there, but 6'5", 300 pounds that can move a little bit is hard to come by.
Yeah, they're hard to find, and I'm disappointed too that it didn't work out. I thought a couple years ago he was going to be a great player, but obviously he's not playing much, and he's decided that the best thing for him to do is sit out and then go to another school. So it is what it is. You got to move on. But I'm with you. I thought he would be a more productive player. Hey, thank you, Pat. I got to get to some other phone calls.
I know you got to go. But one quick thing, Renard. This may be a real good thing for Renard to finally see if he's going to have a chance to play. But, he was recruited highly out of Texas.
Yeah, he's got some talent, too. They got a lot of talent on that defensive front. They need to start getting more production out of them. Hey, thank you, Pat. Appreciate you. Let's get to Cowboy up next. Hey, good morning, Cowboy.
How you doing, Gary?
Doing well.
Me, whoever, nobody can, I got no power over this Kalen DeBoer situation. What will happen will happen. That's all, that's all that's going to happen. That's all I've said the whole time. I'm just holding my powder, Hey, did you watch that game Sunday, the Phillies and the Mets? Now, that's Major League Baseball at its finest. They're
getting after each other. I didn't catch much of it. I've been tracking it, but that so far has just been a great series.
Oh, Gary, what a ball game.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness, I thought the Mets had came back and got them, but the Phillies reached down in the bottom of the ninth and got some people on, and I can't say his name. I'd butcher it. The guy got a hit and got a run in. It was awesome. That's a great series. There's some good baseball going on right now. You got the Royals and the Yankees 1-1. The Detroit Tigers. Nobody knows anything about them, but it's 1-1.
Yeah, it was Castellanos is the guy who got the hit. He does that a lot for them. He has been a clutch guy. I mean, this because if the Phillies lose that one, they're in trouble.
It's over.
This Castellanos guy has done this. He is a guy, when he's up there, you just expect him to come through, and he usually finds a way to do it.
Yeah. But I tell you, people keep talking about NIL this week. NIL has no reason or any deal in Alabama losing to Vanderbilt, So, the NIL talk.
No, all the stuff that's going on. The only thing I will say that the system, the current rules help Vanderbilt in this regard is under the old system, they wouldn't have been able to go out and get, bring in as many transfers as they did, bring in the quarterback. They really revamped their team, and give Clark Lee credit. He was going to try to build this the traditional way through recruiting and developing players, and he understood eventually, hey, man, we're not getting anywhere with this. So, but as far as the field on Saturday, the football team that Vanderbilt put out there played better and beat the football team that Alabama put out there, and that's the bottom line. And, now we're going to see I've had some people tell me, well, sometimes it takes a loss to get you focused and all this stuff. And I'm saying, well, that, shouldn't be the case, but we'll see. We'll see Saturday what Alabama comes out with. Cause I guarantee you South Carolina wants to be focused too. They just had an embarrassing loss at home to Ole Miss. Right. So, they're going to be focused as well.
Every week now in the SEC's an elimination game, and there will definitely be an elimination game in Knoxville because I feel like a loss for Vanderbilt is like 1.5 losses. At least in the eyes of the committee. So, if you lose again, you got Vanderbilt. You got Tennessee on the road. You got LSU on the road. And you got Oklahoma. And that's a variable, Oklahoma. You don't know whether they're going to be better at the end of the year or worse. So you just don't know. They got a tough schedule. They got a quarterback that might give Alabama fits the way he runs. But, we got a lot of football left to play, and I said that after Georgia. People,
all right, Cowboy. I got to get
Be good, buddy.
Hey, good to hear from you, man. Thank you a lot. All right, next up is Bryce. Hey, good morning, Bryce.
Hey, I saw two players look like they wanted to play football Saturday. That was number 2 and number 81. The rest of them act like they didn't want to be there. I have never seen so much they didn't want it like Vanderbilt did. I can't think of the word that I'm trying to find, but they weren't focused.
No, I agree with you there. 100%. Vanderbilt was better prepared to play the game. Took it to Alabama. Got Alabama behind the 8 ball from the get-go. Alabama never led in the game. I still think Alabama would have won the game had the defense been able to get a stop there at the end, but they couldn't do it. I think if Alabama gets the ball back, they go down and score a touchdown and win the game.
I'm not putting the ball to them the way my defense has been playing. I'm kicking the onside kick and taking my chance.
Well, I would have onsided it too because it gives you an extra chance to steal possession. And even if they get it at 50-yard line, who cares? I mean, you still got to stop them. And there's a chance if they've got it at the 50-yard line that they're not as aggressive offensively. They may be then thinking, well, you know what? We're going to run the ball 3 times, try to run clock, punt them down deep. When they were at their own 18-yard line, they were saying, we got to make some first downs. So I don't understand not trying the onside kick. I really don't. I've said that since the game.
That was a bad call. Hey, Barry, real quick, Gary, the way you stop this trash talking, they want to be paid like professional players. You find the shit out of them when they trash talk.
All right. Thank you, Bryce. Got you, my friend. Watch the language, please. All right, let's get to Philip. Good morning, Philip.
Hey, Gary, I tell you, the coaches are human and they've got common sense. And I'm sure that they got together in the last 72 hours, last 48 hours, whenever, and hopefully right after the Vanderbilt game, and said, look, and Drew DeArmond will probably verify this. They probably said, if you think Vanderbilt loss was bad, let's don't lose to South Carolina at home. So that's what Alabama's got to do is hopefully these guys that are in the leadership positions, the head coach and the assistant coaches and some of the key players, remember that the stepping stone right now is to not look back continuously on what happened Saturday, but they've got to get rid of South Carolina because a loss then it would become uncool.
Oh, you lose at home to South Carolina, you're done. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. I memean, you're not going to a college football playoff. I'll go ahead and you lose back to back. Now, I guess theoretically you could say, well, if you went out, and all that, but first of all, you have to be realistic. If you coming off this loss to Vanderbilt, if you can't come home and beat South Carolina, then you're going to lose some more games. I mean, that's just the way I see it. So you're right. This is all that matters right now. You make a great point, Philip. All that matters right now is not Tennessee, not LSU, not any other. All that matters is South Carolina. That's the only game that matters. And that's the way it's really supposed to be every week. But from what I can tell, Alabama didn't have that mindset going into Vanderbilt. They overlooked that team. They weren't ready to play. And they got their rear ends beat. So right now the focus has got to be strictly on Saturday. You don't worry about anything else after Saturday. You just you laser focus, like you said. You prepare for this team because they're not going to come in here and roll over and wave a white flag. They're going to say, listen, we're good enough to go in there and beat that team. I know they had a poor performance against Ole Miss, but they beat Kentucky handily in Lexington. They should have beaten LSU. They're not going to come in here and just roll over for Alabama. They're going to be ready to play too. And so Alabama needs to focus on Alabama, get prepared, go out and play a good football game and win the game.
Right. Hey, Gary, before I check out, would you ask Drew if he foresees any positional changes this coming weekend? I know because yesterday I asked about Mbakwe, and then I love that Okonkwo kid from West Germany. I think he's a doggone player. And I'm just curious from a fan standpoint. If you could ask him that, I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Thank you, Philip. All right, we got to get to the break here on the Gary Harris Show. We'll be back with Drew DeArmond, the Rocket Man from Huntsville, next year on the program. Stay with us.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Get your free guide at iCancelTimeshare.com. That's iCancelTimeshare.com. iCancelTimeshare.com.
For a chance to win a brand new Jeep Gladiator. Ride right into the holiday season in style. It's all treats and no tricks this month at Pearl River Resorts. Must be 21 or older to play.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour specials.
Lowe's knows pros. Valid in-store only. More terms and restrictions apply. Visit Lowe's.com/terms or Pro Desk for details.
Roll Tide. The best sports talk, period. Your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:35, 25 minutes in front of the hour of 10 o'clock. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. Busy show so far. Plenty of phone calls, but we're going to break away from the phone calls and visit with our next guest, Drew DeArmond, the Rocket Man, 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville. Co-host Talking Ball, weekday mornings from 7 to 9. Joins us here on most Tuesdays. Good morning, Drew. How's it going?
Good, Gary. How are you?
Doing well, man. You've had 3 days to kind of process what happened in Nashville. Obviously, Alabama lost the game 40-35, but as you looked back on it and reviewed it, what went wrong?
Well, I mean, what went wrong is they got whipped at the line of scrimmage on defense, and they couldn't get stops. And the few they got, unfortunately, the offense wasn't perfect, and they had 4 sequences offensively that really hurt Alabama. And that's, and one of them was actually a special teams play, and it's been ad nauseum talked about the duplicate number situation where it was 13-7 and it looked like he had a stop and ended up a punt was forced and Alabama actually had possession of the ball, but with the penalty after the play, when they realized the duplicate number, it gave you 5 yards and a first down. So, and that ended up in a touchdown. We know early in the game before that, the pick six, gave Vanderbilt 7 points and really 6 because the PAT was no good. And then we know the strip sack, which I thought was kind of the death blow, gave Vanderbilt the ball back and field position. And so, it's just one of those things where, and then the underrated one was I think Milroe could have scrambled for a first down. You don't know what would have happened with the rest of the drive, but he throws the ball in a deep ball to Jeremy Bernard, which was caught, but it was past the line of scrimmage. So there was just 3 or 4 plays offensively that really hurt Alabama. But, in any other game, when you score 35 points, even on only 46 snaps, you're going to win. But the Alabama defense just, played one of the all-time worst I've ever seen. It's been 6 of the worst quarters I've ever seen out of an Alabama defense, and they just haven't done their jobs. And so it's complimentary football, and Alabama didn't play it on Saturday. And Diego Pavia, I think should be more about him than Alabama's loss. Diego Pavia is a special guy. I'll just say this. I mean, I said this on my show this morning. If he was at Auburn, I think Auburn's 5-1 at worst. May have still lost to Georgia. We'll see. But he would be a front runner for the Heisman Trophy. He's that good. He's that special. I know he doesn't have the pedigree. He wasn't, a heavily recruited guy. He didn't even have an offer out of high school. But you see him play, and he's so good, so smart, and just a great player. And I just give all the credit to Vanderbilt and Clarkley and Jerry Kill in the 2 weeks they had to prepare. And Alabama didn't play with an edge on Saturday. Vanderbilt did, and they won the game straight up.
Yeah, they did. They won the game. But you did a good job of laying out how it could have been different. Even at the end there, I want to ask you about this, Drew, because if Alabama gets the ball back at the end, I'm confident they're going to win the game. I mean, they were moving the ball, moved it, for the most part all day. And, of course, you had the unfortunate pick six, and then you had the blindside hit of Milroe when they were about at midfield. But at the end there, you cut it down to 40-35. And I get it. You've got 2 minutes and 40 seconds or whatever. You got all 3 timeouts. You've got a 2-minute timeout. I know the book probably says kick it deep and, get a stop, get the ball back. But if I'm a coach, I know everybody's a slave to analytics and what the book says, but I'm sitting there thinking, what did Kalen DeBoer see in that game that made him think Alabama's defense could get a stop? I'm trying an onside kick. I'm trying to steal the possession. And then if you don't get it, Vanderbilt, to me, Drew, at midfield, is more apt to run the ball 3 times, try to take clock off, and make Alabama use their timeouts, feel like we'll punt them deep. If you're at your own 18, they knew if they kicked it back, they'd probably lose the game. They were aggressive. They made first downs. I just don't understand why you don't at least try to steal a possession there, or why you have confidence that defense, which hadn't stopped them all day, was going to get a stop there. I said it at the time. Why try an onside kick for the life of Riley? Try to win the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was surprised. That's the one tactical thing that Kalen DeBoer did. And again, to me, I equated the way he's the head coach is he's not really involved defensively. He allows Kane Womack and that defensive staff to run that side of the team. So he's totally involved with the offense. And that was the one decision he made during the game on that side of the ball that kind of, mystified me from a strategic standpoint, because you saw the flow of the game. Everybody else saw it. I didn't think Alabama would stop. And I know they had a 2-minute warning and 2 timeouts, but I just figured, okay, the way this game's gone, they've been possessing the ball the entire ball game. They're going to get 2 or 3 first downs, and this game's over. To me, I kept thinking the key for Alabama, whether it was before the strip sack or before the penalty that gave him the first down in the first half when it's 13-7 on the special team, or even where he was over the line of scrimmage. All those opportunities were there where Alabama could have taken the lead. I just kept thinking if Alabama took the lead, that would put the pressure on Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. It kind of reminded me of a game, Gary. You've been covering this team. You've been in Tuscaloosa for a long time. It reminded me of the 2001 Alabama-South Carolina game in Fran's first year. It's Tyler Watt's best game of his career. The way Fran coached, you needed their style of offense. You needed to play out front, and they did for much of the game against South Carolina. They were up 2 scores a lot, but they could never get a huge stop. And when South Carolina finally caught him with Bill Petty, you know what happened? Alabama lost because they couldn't come back. I just kept thinking if they could get over the hump and get the lead, that Vanderbilt would put the pressure that they needed on Vandy, and that Alabama would find a way to win the game. But they just never could get that over the hump, and I agree with you. I thought they should have onside kick, tried to steal a possession, get the lead with a minute and so to go. I'm just guesstimating here because I think Alabama would have scored.
I do too.
And then you put the pressure on Vanderbilt to have to execute. And then they get out of their comfort zone, Gary, because you can't run the football. You got to throw it every down, and that's not Diego Pavia's game. And so I would have took my chances there. But I was surprised that they did not, did not onside kick. And when Vanderbilt ran the clock out, it certainly didn't stun me because we saw the way it was trending all game long and what Vanderbilt was doing offensively. And it allowed them, again, to have the lead and do what they had to do. And they threw the ball on second down, and Diego threw a great ball. And they attacked the edges of that Alabama defense, which the flats have kind of been a weak spot for Alabama all year.
All right, I want to get back to the illegal participation because that penalty, there are a lot of penalties that are, questionable calls or they're effort penalties, but this is strictly on the coaching staff. And I want you to help our audience understand how this happens because I don't understand how it happens. You've got staffers on the field, you got staffers in the press box, you got analysts, you got people that are in charge of special teams. You know that you're allowing these guys to wear duplicate numbers. If number 2, Ryan Williams, goes back there to catch a punt, and they had to use a timeout in the Georgia game to avoid it happening. And you got Xavier Brown out there on special teams. That's just inexcusable to me. I don't, and that's not one of those. Well, they won't let it happen again. How does that happen even one time? And I know they're not the only coaching staff that it's happened to, but that was a huge penalty in the game, and that should never ever occur. Why did that not get caught?
Oh, I mean, it's just not paying attention to detail. Kellen DeBoer said as much after the game. They had a communication issue. And at the time, it didn't seem like a big play in the game from the standpoint of Vanderbilt, keeping their lead, but it allowed them to, stretch it back out to 2 scores. And you're thinking, at the time, if Alabama played their normal game, you're expecting them to get a stop. You're expecting them to overcome that. Now, it's a stupid play, stupid penalty. But the way this game was flowing, once Vanderbilt took advantage of that and scored a touchdown, you're thinking, I don't know, man, this may not be Alabama's day. And then they were down before you know it, 23-7. People kind of forget that. It was kind of a blowout there for a while until Alabama scored near the end of the half and then scored at the beginning of the half to really cut it down to 2 points. And that's when I thought, and this was the most disappointing aspect of the game for me, honestly, though, Gary, because, look, football, it's human nature. I mean, I know you talked to some coaches since the game ended. Teams come out flat, okay? And Alabama played a flat first half. But I've seen it many times. But didn't go to Nick Saban. I thought when Alabama cut them to 23-21, they were going to make adjustments at halftime, come out, get 3 or 4 stops in the second half, and win the game by double figures, 42-28, 38-28, something. I just figured it's not going to be pretty, but they're going to win the game. That was the more surprising thing to me. Now, you can't let that happen with the numbers. I completely agree. It's inexcusable. But I think the most inexcusable thing is the lack of adjustments defensively. I didn't see many. I know Kane Womack, talked to the media yesterday. He said they did try to make some adjustments, but I guess they weren't effective. I mean, I didn't see anything visually. But, again, I'm not a football coach. I don't get paid the billions they get to prepare this team. But that's the thing that bothered me. I didn't see much different in the second half defensively. I guess the only thing I did, it was a little that I thought was somewhat noticeable, is I thought they played first and second down better. The bottom line is they couldn't get off the field on third down, which coming into the game, they were the best in the country on defense on third down. But I just felt like there was a lack of adjustments. And really, there's been a lack of adjustments in the last 6 quarters, which has led to this abomination that we've seen on the field defensively.
All right, you mentioned the defense, and where do you go from here? I mean, you documented it. Couldn't get off the field on third down on the 4th and 1. They had 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. They brought 2 more. She still had time to play action it, drop back, and throw it over the top without getting hit. I mean, this defense right now, the last 6 quarters, as you alluded to, hasn't stopped running water. I mean, what do you do to fix it?
Well, I mean, you just have to go back to work, and you got to, and to be honest with you got to coach them harder, and you got to get better effort, because I don't think the effort was there at times either. I mean, you look, Gary, the most experienced part of this defense going into the season was the defensive line. It's why Freddie Roach is retained. They had a lot of good players coming back. They've had one leave now in Jaheim Otis because he wasn't getting developed properly, in my opinion. Now, he has some issues, maybe with how hard he worked, and, maybe gaining weight and not doing what he needs to do. Yeah, but I still think that's on his position coach, too. Got to motivate a guy, got to make sure he's doing things the right way. I just think no matter what defense you run, a 4-2-5, a 4-3, a 3-4, the D-line sets the tone. And they had a lot of talent coming back on the defensive line. And at times they played well. They've had bright moments, but at times they have not. And they disappeared completely on Saturday. I mean, and again, the secondary is young, so you were expecting them to have some bumps in the road. And the linebackers, I thought, I think Jihad and Deontay are both NFL players, but they did not play well Saturday. The entire defense did not play well. But it all starts up front. If the defensive line is getting off blocks and shedding and disrupting an option-type style offense, then it makes the linebackers' job easier and the secondary, because you're blowing plays up. And we did not see that. Alabama was not attacking. Alabama got attacked, and that's got to stop. And there's got to be more intensity, because there's got to be more attention to detail. It's kind of like what I put on X after the game. I mean, I think intensity and physicality were not there, and they play off of each other. The execution was not there. It was terrible, and I just felt like, and that's the thing that bothers you. The execution was poor because the intensity and the intensity and the physicality was missing. And I just and then the discipline, because the guys were not in the right gaps. They weren't, and that goes to preparation. I just think that the coaches thought they had a good week of practice. The players did, but obviously they were still basking in the glory of Georgia, and they didn't pay attention to detail. And then Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt were good enough to knock them off. But again, the physicality and the attention to detail, that's what bothered me. It wasn't there from the jump. And you would have thought they would have woken up at halftime. So I've seen Nick Saban do it. He did it last year against Tennessee, for example. where I thought the defense played very poorly, and they played poorly as a team for a half, and then played as good as I've seen them play all year the second half. And that's what bothered me, about this performance against Vanderbilt. I just never thought, that they played a complete, they played, to their peak level. I mean, the offense had bright moments, even they made mistakes, but defensively, I just felt like the entire game there was not attention to detail, and the coaches didn't make the proper adjustments, and the players, didn't execute. That's what's going to make this week so interesting, because there's a high standard at Alabama. We know what happened with Malachi Moore, and they've got to get back to playing Alabama defense the way it's supposed to be played, no matter what scheme you're running.
All right, Drew. Philip called in earlier and wanted me to ask you about personnel, and if you anticipated their whether it's Oronquo, the linebacker, or just some personnel moves to get some different guys in the game on defense. I don't think it's a personnel issue myself, but you think there might be some changes forthcoming in terms of who plays and who doesn't?
Well, there might be a different, there might be some more defensive line rotation. Otis is now gone.
Yep.
They may play some more guys along the defensive front, I would think. I don't think there'll be many schematic changes with the linebackers, because Jihad and has played well for the most part. So has Deontay. Deontay's a true leader. If anybody, I was in the locker room match, but Deontay was very upset. He was distraught. I think the secondary will be much the same. They're already playing a lot of young guys anyway. I just think, and then with Malachi, we might see him get benched. And if we do, I'm for that. Certainly I'm not for him to be suspended, but if he doesn't start the game, then that's fine, and give someone else an opportunity and then go from there. But I don't think there'll be a lot of schematic or personnel changes. I think it'll be, I think what they'll do is I think if there is personnel changes, it will be, again, with defensive line rotation, maybe give some younger guys a chance to play along that defensive line, and some of these vets like Tim Smith don't get better effort, then you might see some younger guys get in the rotation. So we'll see. But again, I think it's more about, I agree with you, it's more about the effort overall and the execution from the guys you have. And at this point in time, you're not changing scheme. You can't do that right now in the middle of the season. That's not the answer. It's to get better production from the players and the coaches to do a better job of getting them ready to play.
All right, we're getting up against the clock a little bit, but a couple more topics. And first of all, in South Carolina, they had a bad loss at home to Ole Miss, didn't play well, but they thumped Kentucky and Lexington. They should have beaten LSU. They're not going to come in here and just roll over. I think that for Alabama, obviously this is the most important game of the season, and focus has got to be there. How do you think Alabama will come out and play on Saturday? Do you think they'll come out and be laser focused and dominate the game, or you think we're going to look up in the third quarter and this is going to be a football game?
Well, I would expect Alabama to be laser focused. I mean, there shouldn't be any looking ahead to Tennessee or Oklahoma or Auburn or whatever. I've told some people this. They've asked me, are they going to lose 2 or 3 more games? I mean, how are they going to play against Tennessee? Don't worry about any of that. You just worry about beating South Carolina. If South Carolina should have beaten LSU, some questionable officiating kind of took that from them. They went to Kentucky and beat a very physical Kentucky team badly. So you better be ready to play. I know they didn't play well against Ole Miss. Ole Miss had a bounce-back game. But Alabama, they have an elite offense. Okay, I still expect them to play well offensively. But what I want to see is cut out the special teams area you had last week and execute in that area. Don't give South Carolina free yards or possessions. And then I expect on defense, get back to the basics, get back to running to the football. I saw it swarm deep. I better see some swarming. I didn't see enough swarming on Saturday. I saw too many people out of position. Everybody needs to, be where you're supposed to be and get there in a bad mood and play very physically and fast. I didn't see Alabama attacking Vanderbilt, Gary. I saw them on their heels, and they better attack South Carolina. They better attack Lenore Sellers. He's certainly a great athlete, and then you got to contain Rocket Sanders because, look, man, Alabama's defense right now is considered the worst 4-letter word in football, stall. So everybody is going to challenge them. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to think they can run the football. And so, to be honest with you, this is just a pride game. Alabama needs to get back to being respected and feared on defense because right now, nobody is afraid to play against Alabama on that side of the ball.
All right, finally, getting back to Jaheim Otis, announcing last night yesterday that he is going to redshirt the rest of the season with the intent to go in the transfer portal. This is a guy who is a physical specimen, lost 100 pounds. showed great promise early in his career. What happened?
Well, I mean, I just think he wasn't developed the last 2+ years. He looked really good as a freshman. Tim Smith isn't a fifth-year guy that is the same way. I thought when he was a freshman in the 2020 National Championship year, he was going to be a great player. And he's a good player, but he's never taken that step. Jaheim Otis, after his freshman year, looked like he was going to be a superstar. Just never did. I mean, he got hurt a lot last year. Only played, a backup role, really. He started, but I just considered him more of a backup guy. He was hurt the entire offseason. After suffering the injuries during the year, he had to recover in the offseason, and he never even really practiced after the Rose Bowl. We never saw him. He never came out during the spring. He was recovering. And then when the season started, he was barely in the rotation because I think he was coming back from the injury. I heard he put on some bad weight, and so he got passed up by some guys. And then maybe there's thoughts that his motor what it should have been. But again, I still think if you have a defensive line coach that can develop and recruit, I still think, to me, that's what this is about. You have to motivate guys. You have to find a way to reach guys. You have to light a fire under. Because there's no doubt Jaheim lost 100+ pounds when he got here, had a lot of motivation, wanted to play for Saban, and you could see flashes of the talent. I just don't think it's been brought out of him enough. And I mean, I certainly think Keenan's become a good player. And Alabama's had some draft pick guys in the last seasons with Fadarian Mathis, Christian Barmore, Byron Young, Boydby, but they haven't had a first-round pick since Quinnen Williams. And before that, it was Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen. And what is the common denominator with all three of those first-round picks? They were recruited by Bo Davis. And I just think the recruiting and the development along the defensive line has not been where it needs to be for the last 5 years. And I think right now the weakest link on that coaching staff is Freddie Roach.
Good stuff, Drew. And I know that a lot of the fans that listen to my show like to follow you and keep up with all your information, and let them know how they can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. They can connect with me at Drew D977 ESPN, and certainly I've had a lot of people trying since this debacle on Saturday on X, and then they can connect with our station, 977 at 977 ESPN. And then, of course, all of our content, Talking Balls, on our SoundCloud page. If you missed that, 977 The Zone. ESPN 977 The Zone. And then, of course, you can get it on our website at ESPN977thezone.com. But we always enjoy being on the Gary Harris Show, and look forward to, being on next week and hopefully talking about a more positive result and a bounce back against South Carolina. And then basketball.
WTBC 1230 with Wyatt Fulton and Matt Coulter, presented by BMW of Tuscaloosa, Pearl River Resort and Casino, Tuscaloosa Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and Walk-Ons.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hour.
You can shop online at TuscaloosaCDJR.com. At Tuscaloosa Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, you pick it out and we'll work it out. Roll Tide.
Alabama's weather will stay dry through the weekend ahead. A sunny sky today, the high 81. Clear tonight, the low 57. Tomorrow and Thursday, sunny both days, highs around 80. And Friday, another sunny day with a high at 79. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
It's 62 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
9:58. That's going to wrap it up for hour number one. It's been brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. We'll be back with hour number two. We'll get it started with Kayla Anderson with the Titans report. Another hour. The Gary Harris Show is on the way.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Kevin Wyatt.
We have breaking news in the NFL as ESPN the first to report that the New York Jets have fired head coach Robert Saleh. In other NFL news, a month after a new lawsuit was filed accusing Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson of sexual assault and battery, the case has been resolved, according to the alleged victim's lawyer. And in Monday Night Football last night, it's the Chiefs beating the Saints 26-13. Even though Patrick Mahomes did not have a touchdown pass, he did have 331 passing yards, and Kareem Hunt, Xavier Worthy, each with a rushing touchdown, while Harrison Butker contributed 4 field goals to give Kansas City the win. As for Derek Carr, he did have a couple of touchdown passes and an interception, but he did have to leave the game in the fourth quarter with an oblique injury and did not return. He will have an MRI on it later today.
It's the Tide 100.9 30K Workday Payday. Woo! Win cash every weekday 8 to 5. Here's this hour's cash code.
603. Again, that's 603. The code is 603.
Enter that code now on the Tide 100.
At First and Main. Visit firstandmaincondos.com or call 205-657-7465. Mention you heard about us on the radio and receive 1 month free rent.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show right here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. And we're going to have the Tennessee Titans report a little earlier than normal. Usually we do it about 10:15 or 10:30, but Kayla Anderson from Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone in Nashville, has some stuff she's got to take care of, so we're going to jump right on with her to lead off the second hour. Good morning, Kayla. How are you?
I'm good. I know that you guys may be feeling a little bit different there in Alabama today, but at least we can talk a little tight.
Yeah, we'll get to the Alabama-Vanderbilt game from your perspective in a moment. But, yeah, let's start out with Titans. A little bit of momentum after an 0-3 start. They get the win at Miami, go into the bye, and now they've got divisional play coming up with Indianapolis on Sunday, and a chance to get a win in the division, and get to 2-3 on the season. And I feel like probably they're feeling a little bit better than they were after that 0-3 start.
Yeah, I think the bye week, as weird as this sounds, because it is so early, I almost think it did come at the right time for this team in particular, because there is so much newness to the team. It gave them a chance, specifically Brian Callahan, to, after 4 games, have some time to evaluate everything and try to maybe figure out, hey, these are some of the things that I can improve on with my play calling. Okay, these are some of the limitations that we're working with the offensive line or Will Levis, and kind of make those adjustments headed into what will now be a really long stretch without any rest, but a stretch where you could start to build some momentum. And that starts with, you're exactly right, a division opponent in the Indianapolis Colts, who seem to be kind of dealing with similar situations at the quarterback position, where Anthony Richardson is a young quarterback who not a lot of people know exactly what he is yet, because he can't stay healthy. And then when he's on the field, he's thrown for 6 interceptions, the same amount that Will Levis has thrown for. Then you have a backup in Joe Flacco that could probably get the job done more consistently right now, but he's not your future. That's the same situation here with Mason Rudolph, and, why people want to go to him. But then again, he's not your future. So it is a very interesting game when it comes down to just the storylines too. But I think a very good opportunity for this Titans team to, like I said, start maybe building some momentum and start stacking some wins.
Yeah. All right. What are they going to do with the quarterback situation? Levis or Rudolph going forward?
Yeah, it is going to be, and this again was updated yesterday as Brian Callahan held his weekly press conference. He said that as long as Will Levis is healthy, and right now, while he didn't practice yesterday, which was a bonus day for the Titans will be back on practice field tomorrow, he feels like Will Levis got the treatment that he needed over this break. He said he was at the facility most of the time. And so he is kind of alluding to the fact that I believe Will Levis will be ready to play. And if Will Levis is healthy, he is said this over and over again, he will be the starter. Now, that's not to say that if Will's shoulder is starting to act up in this game against the Colts and he's throwing for 2 interceptions in the first half, or he's grimacing on the sideline after a drive, that doesn't mean to say that they won't go to Mason Rudolph in that game. But then I think Brian Callahan can still use the fact that Will Levis isn't 100% healthy as kind of his backup as to why he puts Mason in. Because right now I can tell from what he said, he does not want there to be a quarterback controversy here, but it might end up being that way.
Yeah, sometimes whether you want one or not, you get one depending on what happens. The Titans, of course, obviously the Texans kind of went into the season as the team to beat in that division, and they're off to a fast start. But, everybody else is kind of lumped in together. But do the Titans feel like they get to play Houston twice? Do they feel like they can win this division?
It's interesting you say that because that was actually brought up yesterday. Specifically, they talked about watching the standings and if Brian Callahan does that at all. And he's been very transparent with us from, the minute he walked in these doors. And he said, in a way, that's not obviously our first priority by any means, but in a way, we do take a peek every now and then at what's going on in front of us or above us, because there are a lot of teams that are 2-2 right now in the league. We see these few teams that are elite right now. And yes, I would put the Houston Texans in that category, but there's a lot of other teams, including the two that are, the AFC South and the Colts and the Jags, that you can start to build on and try to, like I said, that's why that momentum and starting to stack wins is important, because I do truly feel like if they start to get into what their true identity is and Will can limit these mistakes and turnovers, I do feel like they understand they have the right defense specifically. And if the offense can just, like I said, limit the mistakes, they have enough to start winning games. And, maybe split the series with him. Being able to take down the Colts, which they've had their number in the most recent years. The Jaguars don't look special by any means. That's not saying that's a given, but I think they're beatable. So, to answer your question, I think Brian Callahan truly feels like his team has a chance to kind of get themselves out of this hole.
Having said that, a division game at home and then road trips coming up to Buffalo and Detroit, if you're going to keep any momentum and any thoughts to that, early in the season, you hate to say must win, but this looks pretty much like a must win to me for the Titans at home against the Colts.
I think it is. I said it on Ramon, Kayla, and Will today. I said, you're going to learn a lot about your team coming out of this bye week, because remember, you went in bye week with some momentum, with some good feelings because you won that game. Now, maybe there's a little bit of splitting sun, maybe who thinks Mason Rudolph should be high or who thinks Will Levis has still got an opportunity to show what he can do. He clearly has better upside when it's all done. But a win's a win. And going into a bye week then where you get to go rest, you get a mental reset, I think it shows about this team coming out of that, especially when they haven't won at home this season yet, and you're at home. Then on top of it, it's the Colts. They don't look great. Their defense hasn't been good either. I just think there's more pluses for this Titans team to head in the right direction than there is the opposite. But if they don't get to this point, Gary, I think that there could be a real quick decline because, again, you just mentioned it. They're facing the Buffalo Bills. And then, you've got Detroit there. Those are two really teams that I know, NFC with the Detroit Lions doesn't mean as much. But if you got some momentum winning this Colts game, I think there's a possibility you could go in there and beat the Bills, who, by the way, have declined since their hot start.
Mm-hmm. All right, your reaction to the Robert Saleh news out of New York this morning. I'm kind of stunned, but I think it's clear that Aaron Rodgers had, if you listen to anything he said, is not a big fan of Robert Saleh. He's not going anywhere. The Jets defense has been fine. The offense has been the issues, but Saleh is out. Defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich is the interim head coach. I don't know what this does for the Jets, but what do you think about that move? I mean, only 5 games in, they're 2-3, and the head coach is out.
I think they were waiting for the opportunity to say we were embarrassed or we can't have that. And clearly in their showing versus, the Vikings in London, they were not happy with what the outcome was. And look, you can't exactly pin that all on Robert Saleh. Aaron Rodgers looked like a 40-year-old quarterback.
He did.
And I'm not talking about the Tom Brady's of the world, because there's not many that can perform at a high level at that age. And I think it is orchestrated by Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers pulls strings. I think we've seen in the past with when Aaron Rodgers is involved with an organization, Green Bay finally had enough and decided we're going to part ways. But that's because they had enough. They had seen it time and time again that it wasn't benefiting them. Well, the Jets seem to be still, Woody Johnson, the owner, still caught up in the Aaron Rodgers hype of who they think, he is at this point of his career. I don't think he's that guy anymore. I really don't. And I think that it's going to hurt their organization when it's all said and done. I don't think Saleh was necessarily the answer ever with the New York Jets, but to fire him this early on, when, again, your defense is playing well, I'm sure there are players on that team that have his back. And then to kind of divide that locker room now, because I know there's probably not everybody, including Garrett Wilson, who's had some issues with Aaron Rodgers, who's throwing the ball to him. I would think at some point there's going to be a little bit of divide. I don't think this helps the situation by any means. And I might be proven wrong. But right now, this looks like a team that's in disarray like it usually always ends up being, whether they draft a quarterback and don't hit, or if they bring over a future Hall of Famer and it doesn't click.
Yeah, Jets, man. You would think that with all the resources, they could get it right, but they struggle. All right, before I let you go, Alabama comes into Vanderbilt, the number one team in the country, had not lost to the Commodores in 40 years, had not 23 straight wins, hadn't lost in Nashville in longer than that. Took over the stadium as they always do, limited seating as it may be, and Vanderbilt stunned them. You covered Alabama when you were in Montgomery. You, of course, covered Ohio State and got to see Alabama a couple times in that regard. Just the reaction there in Nashville, and did anybody kind of – I know Vanderbilt's improved, but was there anybody up there that saw this one coming?
I don't think there's many people that saw this one coming. What I will say, Gary, is I did say on our show on Friday – I thought Vanderbilt was going to come out hot. I took the over in this game specifically for that fact. I thought Vanderbilt would be a team coming out of the gates. They heard the Saban comments. Clark Lee has done a good job of, kind of getting out of his own way of coaching and going and hiring Jerry Kill and getting the quarterback that in the past you might not have seen a Clark Lee team, acquire in Diego Pavia. And who has really changed the identity of this, if I say so myself. And I had a feeling that they wanted to prove something, whether that be just sticking with Alabama in this game or which was their intent. Pavia said he thought, they were going to win this game. They came out and did that. And by no means, though, did I think that Alabama was not going to be able to come back and pile on points and win the game. That's how I looked at this game happening. But when they just couldn't get to the point where they couldn't overtake Vanderbilt, and we got into the fourth quarter, and I started to say, you know what, Vanderbilt's going to win this game. They're not going to let off. They're going to continue to be the more physical team in this game, and they did it. And it was a shocker. I mean, and you're seeing it with the type of coverage it's getting nationally. No one imagines this happening. And it's not like this is the best Alabama team that has ever walked the face of the earth. But this is a pretty good Bama team. And
they were number one.
And they're number one, so you can't take anything away from that. So it does make you question, did Kalen DeBoer really have these guys ready for this type of matchup where maybe they're underestimating a little bit what Vanderbilt is bringing to the field, which I know does not usually happen when it was a Saban-led team. And just offensively, Vanderbilt showed some things that clearly Alabama had not seen.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, the Vanderbilt coaching staff outcoached the Alabama coaching staff. Here's the challenge. I've been here a long time. As you know, I've seen teams knock off Alabama before. Even the Nick Saban teams were upset on occasion. What do you do with it? That's the challenge. It's one thing to beat Alabama, and that's the biggest win in Vanderbilt history. Do they do anything with it? Are they able to beat Kentucky, or that a lot of times you have an Alabama hangover from beating Alabama. And that'll be the challenge for Vanderbilt. I give them all the credit in the world. They probably feel like they should be undefeated, but they still lost to Georgia State. They still let one get away with Missouri. I'm going to be interested to see, because I'm with you on Diego Pavia. He's the real deal. I'm shocked Auburn didn't go after him after what he did to them last year. They had him at quarterback. They wouldn't be – seriously, they wouldn't be 2-4. But I'm going to be curious to see what Vanderbilt's able to do with this. If this is just a blip on the radar screen, you're selling the goalpost and all that, and at the end of the year you look back and you're still having a disappointing season, or if they're able to take this going forward and beat some other people. What do you think?
I think if they're going to change the view of their program and what they really want to do and what they've been talking about for the past 3 years, as Candace Story-Lee took over his athletic department, they need for this to have a meaning. If this does not have a meaning for this program in terms of building upon it moving forward, then you really do question what Vanderbilt can do moving forward with football. Right. I really, that might seem like a very harsh statement, and I'm not saying they have to go win every game, but I think that now you need to build on this win and build your program up off of this win. You're getting the facilities now. You've got the staple win. Now you got to do something with it. And if they don't, then you really do feel like, is there much hope for this team in the SEC?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch for sure. Hey, great stuff, Kayla, as always. And, people, I know a lot of people that listen to the show like to follow you on social media and keep up with Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Kind of fill everybody in on how they can do that.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter /X at Kayla Anderson TV. And if you get your podcast wherever that might be, you can simply download our show, Ramon, Kayla, and Will, and check out what we have every morning from 6 to 10.
Thanks, Kayla.
Thanks so much, Gary.
All right, Kayla Anderson from Nashville with the Titans Report. It's 10:19 here on the Gary Harris Show. And the YMCA of Tuscaloosa, we're going to visit with someone from the Y a little bit later on in the show about a huge event that they've got coming up in just a little bit here on the program. But I want to go ahead and mention to you the YMCA of Tuscaloosa is ready for you when you're ready for the Y. And we encourage you to check them out at 2300 13th Street. Join up today. I've been a member over for 20 years. I love the place, and I think that you will love it as well. That's the YMCA of Tuscaloosa. All right, we're going to be wide open for phone calls from here on out. That's right. That was our last guest. Kayla was our final guest. I didn't want to overbook guests because I want to make sure. And, yeah, we got some audio from Kalen DeBoer and Nick Sheridan and Kane Womack, but I'd rather hear from you folks. So 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. Also, when we come back, listen, Georgia's got a great football program. Kirby Smart, I think, for my money, is the best coach in college football. I mean, that's who I would put at number one. But they have had issue after issue with players being arrested for domestic issues, for all of the driving, reckless driving and driving under the influence issues. And now, today, more news. One of their top wide receivers arrested.
North and Northport, just before Carroll's Creek Baptist Church. Sponsored by Black Warrior Marine, Castaway Fish Co., Riverside Feed and Seed, and Adams Heating and Cooling.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Alabama's weather will stay dry through the weekend ahead. A sunny sky today, the high 81. Clear tonight, the low 57. Tomorrow and Thursday, sunny both days, highs around 80. And Friday, another sunny day with a high at 79. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 66 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Where the season never ends. This is your home of Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
10:23, some app messages from the Tide 109 app. SLC Bama girl in Salt Lake, easy for me to say, says, is Jeremy Pruitt, is he available? Talking about defensive coordinator. She also says, Gary, the Vandy quarterback played well, but it is an advantage to be 23 and a half years old. Absolutely. There's no doubt. That's something I've talked about a lot here on the show, is that with the transfer portal and some of these young men graduating high school when they're 19, being held back. You've got guys now playing college football, in some cases older than that. We've seen 25, 26-year-old quarterbacks. Yeah, it's an advantage. I mean, physically, yeah, it is. And then Michael Jags in Tuscaloosa says, sounds like you need a 5-second delay and a quick finger, talking about Bryce calling in and saying something he shouldn't have said there. And then a vote from Coach Pass in Florence. DeBoer better get a hold on this team or we're in for a long haul. I agree. Got to coach better and play better. All right, let's get to this news on Georgia before we get to some phone calls. Georgia wide receiver Colby Young. This is from the AJC, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Colby Young was arrested Tuesday morning on misdemeanor charges of assaulting an unborn child and battery. That's according to the Athens-Clarke County jail log. Per the police report obtained by the AJC, an officer had been dispatched to an Athens residence just before 1 a.m. A 20-year-old woman had gone to Young's apartment to discuss the status of their relationship, and the pair began talking for about 20 minutes. The arrest report states that the conversation became heated after she found out that Young had been on the phone with another woman. As the argument escalated, the female involved alleges that Young grabbed her near the left bicep and tricep and physically pulled her out of the room. At this point, Young returned to his room and locked the door. As the woman began to gather her things, the police report states that she had called a friend. At this point, Young allegedly left his room and picked her up and began to squeeze her torso and abdomen very hard. She believed that Young was trying to harm her. The arresting officer examined the woman's injuries and noted there was a bruise and some discoloration on the bottom of the right side of her chest. And the arresting officer went to Young's residence to interview him, who stated this relationship with the woman had ended and that she had been invited over. Young denied grabbing the woman and said the injuries the woman had were not from him. He was booked at 4:18 a.m. As of 8:30, was still in jail. His bond is $2,500. Georgia head coach Kirby Smart is set to speak to reporters on Tuesday evening. He transferred to Georgia from Miami this offseason. He was the leading receiver for the Bulldogs against Auburn on Saturday. And this is just a string of a lot of arrests in Georgia in the last couple of years. In fact, this is the 7th Georgia player to be arrested since March. All right, let's get to the phone calls. We're going to get to Tom, and then we're going to get to Bodine. Tom, good morning.
Hey, Gary, how are you?
Doing well.
I got news for most people. Nothing good is going to happen after 9 o'clock. Stay at home.
Yeah, probably so. But you can't. Of course, this guy was at home.
Yeah, but she wasn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was an attempt at humor, and it wasn't very.
No, that's all right. What else you got?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk about. It's interesting to me that Kayla and others have brought up the quarterback from Vandy, and how his performance on Saturday was an outstanding one, and I agree with that. Vandy deserves a lot of credit. Excuse me. But I happen to think Johnny Manziel was this guy's hero, and Johnny Manziel made millions off of the game that he won against Alabama. Millions. And Stephen Garcia got notoriety he would have never got when he was in South Carolina for beating Alabama. This has happened before. And I would just wonder if the players on our team, Alabama, recognize the fact that every time you go into a stadium to play somebody, whether it be at home or on the road, they are looking to make a name for themselves.
Well, I don't know how they wouldn't recognize it. I don't know how you could play here, even if it's just a few games, and not understand that you're the University of Alabama, you're the gold standard, you're the biggest brand in college football, and you're a target for everybody. So I don't know how you wouldn't know. I mean, I hear your point, but I don't know how you wouldn't know that. How do you not know that every time you go on the road into somebody's stadium, they can make their season by beating you? How many times do you have to have people rush the field? So if I don't know where you're going with this, Tom, but if you're saying that they didn't know that or aren't prepared for that, then that's their own fault.
Well, that's basically what I'm saying too. It's if you don't know that, while you're at Alabama, then I got a question. When your motivation don't match the opposing team's motivation, you open yourself up to a lot of trouble right there.
You do. You open yourself up to get beat. I don't think it's that they don't recognize that. I think that they know that. I think they understand. I think they relish the opportunity to go on the road and quiet the other team's fans and go into somebody else's stadium and put the Bama footprint on them. I think they overlooked this team. I don't think they overlooked what it means to beat Alabama. I just think they overlooked this team. I just think they thought, as young people can do, we beat Georgia. We're the number one team in the country. This is still Vanderbilt, and we're going to go into Nashville and do what we always do, which is go in there and hammer them. And I don't think that they were ready to go, but I think it was simply because they were a little arrogant in their own right as to who they are and disrespected Vanderbilt. So that's the way I view it.
I guess that was at the basis of my point right there is lack of respect for the opponent.
Yeah, I don't think they respected the opponent. I really, and I do put some of that on the coaching staff. I mean, that's the one thing about Nick Saban. If I heard him say it once, I heard him say it a million times. You respect the opponent. You always respect the opponent, but you always play to a standard regardless of who the opponent is. And he was, and I don't think in this case, this coaching staff coached this team and prepared this team to respect the opponent. I don't. And I think if they'd been ready to play and been better prepared and been more focused, they'd have won the game. That's what I think.
Well, something else that concerned me, of course, we've been saying it. Rodney said it. I said it. You said it in conversations, and I even asked you to get Rodney to elaborate on it earlier in the season. It's about the play of the defensive line, and then Drew come out and nailed it today and said Freddie Roach needs to go. And I tell you what, I hate to call for anybody to get fired, but that's exactly what needs to be happening. And case in point, I tried to bring it up yesterday, is we're playing teams, and their teams across the country, my observation is they've changed the way they block for the run. I don't care what nobody says. The running game has evolved to a different level than what it's been. And we're not picking up on these things. That blocking scheme that Vanderbilt had Saturday, we never got a handle on. We were hesitating, looking around, standing up, and everything else. And Drew's right. We need to replace some people.
Well, that's not what he said. He didn't say that they need to get rid of Freddie Roach. He said he didn't think Freddie Roach was developing the players. He did not say that. So I'm going to make sure I clarify that. That's not what he said.
Well, that's what he meant.
That's not what he said. So you were putting words in his mouth. That's not what he said, though. It's one thing to.
Well, he does need to be replaced.
Well, okay, that's your opinion, and I'm not saying that you don't have a right to it, but don't say that that's what he said, because that's not what he said. Okay.
Well, I took it to meaning that there need to be some shakeups on staff.
All right, Tom. Appreciate you, man. Good to hear from you. All right, let's get to Bodine here before we have to hit the break. Good morning, Bodine. How are you?
Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Doing well.
Good. Hey, I just want to talk everybody off the cliff for all the Alabama fans.
All right.
The state of football is pretty much over as we've known it in the past 20 years, and we have to understand that this is going to be a constant adjustment. This is a new staff, new coaches, new players. It's going to change every year with NIL and all the other components that's involved. We've just got to settle down. We're not going to have 4 undefeated teams this year like we have in the past. That's going to be able to vie for, a spot for 12 spots. So just calm down, understand this is a bump in the road. We'll make the changes. We'll make the adjustments. And Kirby Smart is not given enough credit. He laid the blueprint in the second half against Georgia for every team that goes up against Alabama to use to their benefit. And if they don't take that, and if we don't make the adjustments in our program, then that's our fault.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. You've got to be able to adjust. And defensively, regardless of what your base defense is, and I know Kane Womack says they're multiple, but you're right, and Tom's right in what he said. They didn't do the job against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt got them blocked.
And granted, we are multiple, and part of that is the scheme that Womack has done for years is an aggressive scheme, and our defensive linemen were too far in, too far up. We should have stayed back a little bit and let them somewhat come to us. We were really out of our spot in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
And the issues with that little flare pass that I think we got beat on
4 or 5
times.
Yeah.
And for that never to be covered, and I don't think we ever covered it. And we never covered against Georgia. And in turn, it burnt us Saturday. So, but, the state of college football's changed. It's, what we've known in the past is over. It's all new. These are pay-for-play players, and they all have, huge egos. They want to get paid, and granted, they need to get paid. But we have to understand as fans that this is a learning experience for the new staff. There's going to be some changes. We're going to have to adjust. The only problem I have is how you couldn't see what happened against the second half against Georgia and not make those adjustments, knowing that every team going forward is going to try to use that same process that Kirby used to get back in the game.
Well, hopefully they'll make some adjustments now and be ready on Saturday, Bodine. Hey, man, appreciate the phone call, buddy.
I'm sure they will. Roll Tide, guys.
Thank you. All right, it's 10:30.
The Humana Gold Plus Give Back Medicare Advantage Plan gives you $1,368 back each year in your Social Security check. Choose coverage that helps you keep more money in your pocket. Learn more at gethumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. The Part B Give Back benefit pays part or all of your Part B premium, and the amount may change based on the amount you pay for Part B. Limitations and restrictions may apply. Humana is a Medicare Advantage HMO and PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
Now save up to $1,600 in financing on select appliances with fall savings at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Pricing about September 26th through October 16th. U.S. only. See store online for details.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:38. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and we're going to jump right back out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. Pinnacle Park at North River, luxury townhomes in a gated community near beautiful Lake Tuscaloosa. Find out more at pinnacleparknr.com. Good morning, RV.
Hey, Gary. Good morning, my friend. Listen, I am on the same side of the fence you are when it comes to Malachi Moore. As far, I appreciate him coming out with the apology after the way he acted at the end of that game on Saturday. However, first of all, captain of the football team, but what he did when he refused to come out of that football game, to me, you cross a line. He crossed the line there. Who's in charge of this football team? The players or the coach? And he was saying, I'm in charge. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. I feel like he needs to be, in my opinion, need to be suspended, at least for a half, if not for a whole game or more, to send a message to that football team is, I'm the coach, I'm in charge, you're not in charge, I don't care who you are. You can take up for him, but yeah, he crossed the line in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, again, I said I don't care if they're getting paid. I don't care about NIL. To me, there's a caste system on a football team, and it starts at the top with the head coach, coordinators, assistant coaches, and then the players. And if a player is able to point blank defy a coach on the sideline, that's an issue that has to be addressed. I'm sure they will address it, and I've already said this for the record. I'm in agreement with everything Coach DeBoer said about Malachi Moore, what he's meant to this program, the kind of person he's been on and off the field. That still doesn't excuse his behavior in that game. And I hope that they handle it. And I guess I have to be confident that they will.
Well, yeah, because if you don't get a hold of the discipline of your football team, I mean, there's a lot of losses probably headed your way. I mean, you've got to take control of that football team. The other thing that I wanted to mention was when it comes to Vanderbilt, we think about Vanderbilt through all the years they've been the doormat. But I've just given them some credit. This is not Grandma's Vanderbilt team. This team is tough. They've got a new coach. They've got a quarterback that's good in what he does. I thought that George Teague had some good comments himself when he said in practice Alabama was not able to simulate the speed on the practice squad that they saw from Vanderbilt when it came to the option. And so what happened was they were fooled. I mean, they didn't know what football was. They didn't know they missed their assignments and things like that. So they just weren't prepared for this type of an offense. And it goes back. We just kind of have a history of not playing well against the option type quarterback for whatever reason. Way before DeBoer ever came up, it's just something we have trouble with.
Well, most people do, RV. Just to be honest with you, because you don't face option teams that often. It's a unique style that they run, and it is hard to prepare for it when you don't see it. And it is hard to simulate it in practice, and give them credit. They've got a quarterback that can run it. As you said, they brought in Jerry Kill and Tim Beck. Clark Lee brought them in from New Mexico State along with Diego Pavia, and it's transformed that football team. And they're not one to be slept on anymore. Having said that, I think we all continue to say the same thing. Alabama still should have beaten Vanderbilt. You still, regardless of what offense they're running, if you're the number one team in the country and you're coming off a win over the Georgia Bulldogs, you should be able to go into Nashville and beat Vanderbilt. Georgia State beat them. Yeah. I'm not saying they shouldn't have been undefeated, but Georgia State beat them. And Missouri found a way to beat them. Alabama couldn't do that. So it's a bad loss. You move on. Coach DeBoer's right. It's about how you respond. And as some of our callers have pointed out, and I'm in total agreement with them this morning, all you can do right now is focus on South Carolina. You're not worried about Tennessee. You're not worried about anything down the road. You better be worried about Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Because if you don't prepare and get yourself ready to play that game, you could be in trouble in that game. So, and then you really have a bunch of issues. So the key now is to come back, play well on Saturday, get it back on track, and then get ready to go to Knoxville and see if you can get it done up there.
Yeah, hopefully, their head is out of the clouds now, back to reality, knowing they can be beat to get back to work. That's what I'm hoping.
I hope so too, RV. Thanks, buddy.
Have a great day.
All right, appreciate you. All right, 10:43 here on the Gary Harris Show, and having fun this morning. I didn't overbook guests. Wanted to get a bunch of phone calls in. We've had a bunch of phone calls. We've had some differing opinions. We've had some good back and forth. Enjoy it, encourage it, and that's a big part of the show. It's like I said. I've always said, since I've been doing this show since 2015, I'm a content-driven show, but we certainly enjoy our callers and having a lot of fun with them this morning. All right, let me mention to you my good friend Jackie Houston at Houston Hydrosteam. It's a unique business that's been in business almost 40 years. And what does that tell you? Well, as a local business, if you've been doing it for 40 years, you're doing it right. And you want your house to look good, Houston Hydrosteam and Carpet Cleaning. Make that phone call today to 205-553-9460. Quality work you can stand on, providing the best carpet and upholstery steam cleaning services to thousands of homes and businesses. Find out more at HoustonHydrosteam.com. Right in time for the holidays. Residential cleaning, commercial cleaning, upholstery cleaning.
69 North in Northport, just before Carroll's Creek Baptist Church. Sponsored by Hicks Taxidermy, Mary's Travel Center, North River Outdoors, and Crimson Pride Hunting and Fishing.
Your home for Alabama Crimson Tide football. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:47. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. And, I talk often about the YMCA. I've been a member for over 20 years. love the Y, but they've got a huge event coming up. The holidays will be here before you know it. And December 7th at 8 a.m., it's the annual Rudolph Run. All proceeds going to scholarships for childcare, summer camp, and youth sports. And Riley Strickland, the operations director of the YMCA and also a personal trainer, is joining us to talk more about it. Good morning, Riley.
Good morning.
Good to have you. I know we're still a couple of months away, but not too early to talk about the YMCA Rudolph Run in 2024, is it?
That's right. Not too early.
What do we got? What tell us about? Give us a little more information on the Rudolph Run and why it's so important and how much fun it is.
Yeah, so we have our annual Rudolph Run coming up. Like Gary said, December 7th. It'll be at 8 a.m. So really cool addition that we have this year is we're going to have a pancake breakfast provided by Fleet Feet. Yeah, so Henry's going to come over and do a pancake breakfast. We do have child care provided for any families that need child care, and Santa gets to visit the kids in child care. And then we'll have a photo booth, 360 camera. So we'll have fun, family pictures, race pictures. But then, of course, the run. So the run is an 8K. So the run will start and finish at the downtown YMCA. And we'll have toast snacks, pancakes, drinks, just lots of fun the day of. Yeah, it just sounds like a family holiday celebration. And the run, yes, sir.
Yeah, the Rudolph Run's just one big part of it. And it's only $30 to register. And as I alluded to at the top, this is a big fundraiser for the Y and goes to a great cause.
Yes, sir. All the sponsorships and registrations will be for scholarships and, everything with the new barns opening. It'll go to helping fund families over there as well.
All right, Riley, if someone wants to get involved, whether they want to register to be a participant or maybe they want to just be a volunteer or maybe they just want to bring their family out, where can they get more information and how can they get signed up?
Yeah, so they can go on our website, which is ymcatuscaloosa.org. They can also email me at rstrickland@ymcatusk.org. But then they can always come into the facility and they can give us a call at 205-345-9622 for all information. They can go to those resources.
Sounds like a plan. The YMCA Rudolph Run 2024 coming up December 7th, 8 a.m. at the YMCA of Tuscaloosa. Thank you, Riley.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, it's 10:50 here on the Gary Harris Show. We got about 7 minutes to go, 6 or 7 minutes to go before the show is over. So phone calls are welcome right now on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline 205-342-9904. All right, I want to get back to the NFL in this Robert Saleh story because, again, I love the NFL. I love watching it. I really have been impressed with Robert Saleh. When he's a defense coordinator at the 49ers, excellent. And as the head coach of the Jets, I mean, I like his demeanor. I think he comes across as a square guy, and I mean that in terms of just being straightforward and a good guy. And like Kayla Anderson said earlier, I have no doubt in my mind from the outside looking in that this was orchestrated by Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the National Football League. But he is an interesting guy, and he does like to have a lot of say-so, and not just on the football team, but in the organization. And the timing of this, the fact that nothing is really going to change with this team. They're going to promote the defense, Jeff Ulrich, the defensive coordinator. I don't really understand it. Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator, it's kind of handpicked by Rodgers. I think what could have happened, just reading a few stories from the internet, kind of multitasking while I'm here on the air, is that Hackett, I think, because the offense has struggled, the defense has been fine. But because the offense has struggled, I think maybe Robert Saleh was going to get rid of Nathaniel Hackett. And maybe Rodgers stepped in. I don't know. But I do think that Aaron Rodgers' blueprint is on this move. And I think he will say 100% that it isn't, that he has nothing to do with coaching decisions. But the Jets brought him in. They want to keep him happy. I still think that Woody Johnson, the owner, believes that Aaron Rodgers is still an elite quarterback and wants to do what he can do to keep Aaron Rodgers happy. So here's the statement that Woody Johnson released on Tuesday in regards to the firing. This morning, I informed Robert Saleh that he will no longer serve as the head coach of the Jets. I thanked him for his hard work these past 3.5 years and wished him and his family well moving forward. This was not an easy decision, but we are not where we should be given our expectations, and I believe now is the best time for us to move in a different direction. Jeff Ulbrich will serve as our interim head coach for the remainder of the season. He is a tough coach who has the respect of the coaches and players on this team. I believe he, along with the coaches on the staff, can get the most of our talented team and attain the goals we established this offseason. So that's the statement. Again, I don't know how much difference a defensive coordinator is going to make with the same coaching staff and the same players. The Jets were 2-3, and I think they should have a better record. I mean, after losing to the 49ers, they beat the Titans, they beat the Patriots, and then they lost a game to the Broncos where they were abysmal in offense, got beat 10-9. Their defense in that game was great. Then they lost that game to the Vikings, who are a 5-0 team in London, and it went down to the wire, and it was Aaron Rodgers that threw an interception late in that game that kept the Jets from having a chance to win. And they got beat 23-17, so they're 2-3, but they could easily be 3-2 or 4-1. They're not that far away. They got the Bills coming up on Monday night at home, and they're letting go of their head coach. And as I said, a little bit I've seen of Robert Saleh, watching him, how he conducts himself. I'm a fan of the guy. I think he's a good coach. And I just think he was in a situation where Aaron Rodgers and he did not see eye to eye. And the way the power structure is in the NFL, if that was the case, Aaron Rodgers is going to win that one. They're not going to, if it became a power struggle between those two, with the way the Jets have invested in Aaron Rodgers and the owner, Woody Johnson, he's going to side with the quarterback. Again, that's just my take on it. I don't know that. I don't cover the Jets. I'm not there. But it feels like this has Aaron Rodgers' fingerprints on it. So we will see what the Jets do going forward. All right, we're about to wrap up the show. Do want to remind you that you can catch me on TV tonight with your local sports on WVOA 23 and with Rodney Orr on Tider Insider TV at 6:30. A lot of people continue to ask me when we'll be back on full power and back on most of the cable systems and satellite outlets. Hopefully soon. That's all I can tell you. It's been frustrating, but you can download the WVOA 23 app and watch us there, or you can stream us live on WVOA23.com live stream. Tider Insider TV at 6:30, one of our most popular shows. We're looking forward to that. Back here tomorrow with the Wednesday edition of the Gary Harris Show. We're going to have Matt Coulter with a NASCAR report. Always look forward to that. Plus, Larry the Music Man joins us on Wednesdays as well. That's always a fun segment. More Alabama football. That's all coming up tomorrow morning. Right now, we're getting ready for T-Town Sports Daily at 11 a.m. And then the Miller's Edge from noon until 2. Ryan Fowler will take you home with the game from 2 until 6 here on Tuscaloosa's all-local sports talk station, Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. For Chase Brumfeld, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again in the morning at 9 a.m.